Yeah, my mother. No, my mother's still alive, and we still talk. And she knows things. She still knows things, kind of before they happen.
Prophetic things.
We're still connected. We're still connected like that.
You know, I actually remember when you and I were texting that night, and I think I was the first person that ever brought that to your attention. 11:11.
This video is about the 11:11. She knows prophetic things before they occur.
Yes, yeah, especially in my life, yeah.
We had been seeing 11:11 since 2014.
We were in Australia. We lived there, and we started seeing it there.
Okay, that's right. 2013 it was when we were in Australia.
This happened. I took this picture at 1:37. That's the book that I was reading.
My company is called.
Well, you got several, but one of them is. Go ahead.
11:11 Publications.
And that's the chapter that I was on. That's a screenshot of where I was. I had just finished chapter 11, moved to chapter 12.
Have you been seeing the 11:11?
I have.
How frequently does this happen to you?
Oh, daily. Absolutely daily.
And it was a casual conversation at first. Are you seeing 11:11?
Yeah.
I'm seeing
I see
11:11.
it everywhere. Everywhere I see 11:11.
Okay. Okay, but look. Okay, because here's remember right there. It says at the bottom. It says disorder.
You know, it doesn't take long to look at the headlines and go, "Wow, this really is happening." Restrainer's lifting his hand, and chaos reigns.
If you think about
places, but also prosperity reigns.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to coincide.
Depends on whose team you're on.
I know that it's in the spiritual realm, Trey. it can be good or it can be demonic. It's a chaos number. That's what I've learned in 7 years. But I also, I've had strange events, like my car wouldn't start the other day, had to have it come towed, and the mileage was 1111.
I just threw one of those Tofife bars in there just because I wanted one, and the bill ended up being 1111.
In fact, today someone called in for counseling, and I looked down at my phone, and on the phone it said 1111.
Can't be more than every 12 hours, but about every 12 hours for a long time. People, Rick, look, our 11s are up.
Yeah, I worked 7 years over at the, they had a facility over in Wisconsin.
7 years?
Seven. Oh my goodness.
That's funny.
I think we saw our 11s today. And people would probably go, what is that? That doesn't mean anything. And it really doesn't mean that much. But what it does mean is we could look at the clock and see 9:51, or we could look at the clock and see 8:13, or whatever it might be. But we just happen to look up there always when it says 11:11.
Yeah, that's funny though. An hour and 11 minutes. I'm telling you, it started happening everywhere.
But then it started showing up in the middle of pertinent conversations.
Because the next day, it happened to me and my friends together.
I started to notice every time I looked at a clock, every time I looked at something, whether it was the television or,
One lives in Minnesota, one's the guy that I just told you about that I've been picking up for a little while.
Okay, tell me about the number 1111.
Never heard of it until somebody texted me and they said, hey Justin, check out 1111. And I didn't know what it was. They explained it to me, and I'm not kidding you guys, within 24 hours, I was seeing 1111 everywhere.
I actually get messages from you a lot with screenshots, 11, probably on the order of a few a week.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. It happens several times during the week. More than what I send you. But
Okay, he sent me this. 11:11.
11:11. I'd be running on the treadmill and I'd happen to look down and 11 minutes, 11 seconds. It was quite odd.
After somebody brought it to my knowledge, it was almost like some kind of a shift. Everything was 11:11, always.
I'm doing a thing. A lot of people are seeing this 11:11. So you see the 11:11.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe that other people are like that. Yes, I see it. I wake up in the middle of the night, look over, and it's 11:11.
When you're talking along and you have an epiphany, Well, have the epiphany is one thing, but have the epiphany and you look at your phone and go,
It's 11:11.
it's 11:11 right now.
Yeah.
Where she prayed, I believe she prayed for 11 years.
That's funny.
That's when it started.
So
really.
we actually Googled it.
Mhm.
Okay, after we kind of made that realization.
Of course, you know everything on Google is true.
It was a running commentary in our family when we were young that, like, when we look at the clock, it'd be 11:11. And I remember that growing up, that it was something that would just seem to happen a lot.
The stuff that you've done, I mean, I'm 100% on the mark. My background is, I worked for Fortune 500 CFOs, 5 top Fortune 500 CFOs. But before that, getting to your testimony, your beginning, I mean, I followed you for like 7 years.
Oh, and believe me, this last week that all this stuff happened to me, you want to know where Bitcoin was hovering around that whole time? 11 to 12,000.
But numbers were important to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to go along with your beginnings as a Christian, I was a Penthouse Pet of the Year, and God took me from that.
I don't really know what it means exactly. I've heard a lot of theories. I'm real careful to not jump the boat, with people's theories. We can't validate it. But I think there's something to it. I think there's something spiritual to it.
It's not beyond me that today is the 11th of the 12th month, and tomorrow will be the 12th of the 12th month.
Yeah.
But I remember the story that my grandmother prayed for 11 years for her children. And then she heard a voice and said, "I heard your prayers." And that year, every single one of her kids got saved.
After all of this stuff happened to me, I started seeing ones and twos mainly, like all of the time. But then I see triplicates, or 111, 222, 333, 444, 555, and just constantly. And it happens around times when I know the Spirit moves.
I'd wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning or in the evening. It would always just pop up, and it still does. So I was always kind of confounded by that. What does that mean? And I think, I was doing some research on this, and there are a lot of schools of thought on this. Of course, the occultic has their own idea.
Yeah, after the 11 years.
After 11 years, and I think there were seven of them.
There was 7 children, and it was after 11 years. She specifically prayed for 11 years, and this is grandmother. And then mom was born on 11/11.
Yeah.
Who has the dreams that connect you? The prophetic dreams.
Yeah.
And there were 3 rainbows, and the one you remember most.
Yeah, I think, so that was
something. You have 4 ones, or 4 aleph, which would be the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is in 3 parts. 4 ones, just like Yod He Vov He, the unspeakable name of God.
Well, there's a few of us. We run a group on Facebook, but we've been seeing it for about 7 or 8 years. And if you Google the 1111 or 11, you get some kind of spiritual channel that's not spiritual. It's more demonic, and you don't get a straight answer. But
when you see 4 ones in a row, it's a double meaning. It's a witness. Like there's 2 witnesses. So 11 and 11 is a double meaning. So it's 2 witnesses.
I've been following you for about 7 years.
Wow.
And I'm right on page with everything, brother.
But we did. I just Googled 11:11, and I didn't know what I would find. But it was like, of course you have all the crazy stuff out there. But
the school shootings, the murders, the whatever, and it's 11 people killed, however many injured. Just, it always has some kind of spiritual tie to what's going on in the world. Just really strange. But
so now here we are, 4 years later, 5 years later, and even just on the way to, this interview, this building 1111, and you stop the camera, it's 1111, So
double meanings. It's for a testimony. When Yahshua sent out his disciples, he sent them out in 2s.
There are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet back here. Any more on the 1111?
I have a buddy whose birthday is on 11/22.
Now the number 22, 11 and 11, 11 and 11. Well, let me see here. If I count all the way down to the 11th letter, which is also the number 20. I find the Kaf right there not only has 4 points on it, but represents the hand of the Creator, which comes right after the Yod, God's number of perfection, the right arm of the Creator. The Kaf actually represents the covering hand over the time period of the evil eye.
I don't know if this is a sign from God or a sign from the devil. 11:11.
Of course, we grew up in West Texas. It's cotton, and when the tares grow, when the weeds grow, they grow much bigger than the crop, much faster, much bigger. And so if it's the parable of wheat and tares, and he says, don't cut it down, don't do anything till the harvest, and we'll cut it all down and separate.
I'll give you an example. The biggest commercial holiday in China now is called 11/11, and it just passed. And this is the day where everybody buys something for themselves. It's a selfish day where everybody buys something for themselves.
For example, I did a teaching last night on the supernatural power of choice. And that was on Genesis 3. There were 2 trees in the garden.
In Genesis 3, there were 2 trees in the garden. Go ahead.
Yes, so 11. So you have 1 plus 1.
Okay.
Yes. So God's giving us through that, the meaning of the 2 trees was choice, right?
There's people with unusual stories about property, and that even surround having the seeing of the numbers like the 11:11. Tell me what you've been finding on your property.
Well, it's the most bizarre things, Trey.
There was the 11:11, and so then the Lord took me to that page, and so I Googled, what is the Jewish Vav?
Well, after the 2 trees in the garden, we have also Cain and Abel. We have Ishmael and Isaac. We have Jacob and Esau.
But that's interesting.
Every page of the Torah has the Jewish Vav, which is an actual, like a binder, kind of a one that holds every page of the Torah together.
It was the year of the election.
Of Donald Trump, that's right.
The year before that, because you didn't accept my friend request, so.
But it actually ultimately turned out that people that you know were at churches that I knew, where I went to while I was doing actually the very first videos, and these were friends of yours. Oh wow. Wow, yeah, okay, so this is a baby. Okay, so is this the head of the dino?
Yeah, you can see it looks like a little T-Rex.
Wow.
But you can see
it's actually a fairly other documentaries that I've made. This one here, this little guy here. The little other guys on here. It's a fairly important documentary.
The only prepper thing on this is there's hidden features in this master bathroom that has places for your rifles and ammunition.
and here's one that isn't out of the shell, so you can see. And I found these in a clutch.
Okay, and this is the house in Florida.
Yeah, this is the house in Florida.
Wow.
But you can see the eye. All this is the bones, and you can really see. Sorry for poor quality camera I have.
But you see the columns that flank the tub in the center?
Yes.
Yeah, they open. There's a little secret switch on the open, and it carries a couple of rifles and guns and all that. Yeah.
And the tongue sticking out. So it's distorted. These things got smashed and covered and buried immediately. Most of them.
You've got literally hundreds and hundreds of things. I saw like on the floor of your house one day, you had all sorts of stuff sorted in boxes and different things.
Yes.
I wasn't real clear in regards to what I was going to do with my life. All I knew is I wanted to serve the Lord. And I remember I was on my knees and I was praying, and I heard a still small voice said, "Get up and get in your car and drive."
This was the house that you...
Yeah, so we had that. So we just finished our house. Well, what happens is we finish the house, and you know how you want to have this terrific relationship with your wife, where if you feel that
the Father is telling you something, she could be a witness.
Over to your friend Dan's house. So that's what I did. I went over to my friend Dan's house, and he had, right when I knocked on the door, something that was kind of amazing. Right when he opened the door, he says, "God told me you're going to China."
Right? Okay, so I'm just finishing this, and we're doing it ourselves. And she says, "I think we're led to move."
When I first landed in China, it was quite overwhelming. I didn't speak any Chinese whatsoever, but I knew that God was going to lead me. So I took what little money I had a few donations that was given to me for the mission trip, and I used about $2,500 to buy Bibles. Actually, there's a church in China that's it's run by the government. It's called the Three Self Church.
Don, that you would identify, you've got the two trees in the garden, and this is in Genesis 3, is where that occurs.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that before you just said that.
I've always liked the Trinity. I've always been just somehow believed in the Trinity, believed in the number 3. I mean, 3 is a positive number for a lot of people. It's not my original idea, but I was always just drawn to that number. So when I had a recording studio, I called it Songhouse 3000.
Now, 2 years ago, we were living and building a house that we thought was going to be our long-term home in North Florida. And just about when we were getting done with the house, Dana felt she got a message from God that we're supposed to move. And I started praying about it, pretty surprised by that idea. I started praying about it, and about 3 days later I thought, you know what, I've got the message too.
Like 1998, everybody's had like their business was Car Wash 2000. Everybody had that. I said, I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to 3. I'm just jumping right up to 3. I'm not going to be on the 2000 bandwagon.
I got 3 more, and then we have a different kind of species.
And they're little dinosaurs.
It's like
we have 3 branches now in the city that I'm in, and we're preparing for our 4th branch.
Now the Gimel, or the 3, the Gimel itself is actually paints a picture of the kinsman redeemer, just like God is 3 in 1.
I, on a different note, have seen that with 322 on the clock, so I don't know what the deal is.
The biggest thing is that the property we purchased upstate in Bethel, New York, House of God, was the address is not that I was seeking this out. It's 333 Gabriel Road. The angel. And it's in Bethel, New York, House of God. So it's just like, it's meant to be.
But we were 300 feet below. My great-grandfather came from southern Illinois, Kentucky, up here to Illinois to coal mine. And
I think that
Well,
was a
and
beautiful.
something else that was always was really neat is that when you had messaged me back, you FaceTimed me 3 days before the election, 3 nights before the election night.
And we headed to where we believe we were led, to Tennessee. Now this was strange. The first 2 homes that we believed we were going to buy, and in fact offered to buy.
Second house they tried to buy. Here they are, a few months later, and they're offering, okay, we'll pay you. We're not even going to argue a price, which is kind of strange.
And so for those 3 nights, 2 nights before and then on election night.
And it wasn't until the 3rd home that they would allow us to buy the house. It's a funny way to say it.
And then just a couple of months after that, I started working for you. I just thought that was really neat that you had called me 3 times.
And I found all 3 prophecies this morning.
We're going to Israel.
So Greg said he says that's
I've
just a
never been.
confirmation.
I'm going.
The Gimel is also a yod, is defined as a yod combined with the Zion. And the Zion right there, or the number 7, can be drawn as a vav, or the number of man, with a 3-pointed kinsman redeemer crown on its head.
This happened, I took this picture at 137. That's the book that I was reading.
then he glanced over at the dinosaur stuff, and he's like, yeah, you got some dinosaur stuff. You know, he was interested in the finger.
The 3s and 7s, not only important numbers, covered very fully in the God dimension, but here when we're going through our study, this study of Enoch that we're doing, we're going to be going deep into the giants, the demons, all of it. And in fact, right while you're watching this video, this study of Enoch, in fact, the first parts, the deal with demons and devils, and is where it'll be. We could be way into the study at the point you're watching this. Those 3 numbers are important. This book I'm holding in my hand, it's like the giants on the screen, the 3s and 7s. Well, guess what, George?
Size, these would be a size 37, is what it's saying. And Brent got permission to bring this to the giant conference.
And this here on the screen that he's holding, I'm holding up to you there, Sharon Gilbert's books on the screen. That's a heck of a plug right there.
Another wild adventure right now coming up.
Wow. You know, it's got the way the thing undulates, the profile of it. He said the ratios are perfect. And I estimate this is twice as big anyways, well, at least not 3 times as big as my index finger, and I'm 6 foot tall.
Oh yeah, here we go. Pretty cool stuff. Can I put my sidearm there?
Yeah. Right. Take a look at this sidearm, by the way. This is
a cool thing.
Yeah, this is. Have you seen this thing? Look
I
at that
have
thing.
something like this that I got in the Georgia mountains, and it's beautiful like this. It has real genuine leather and all.
Mike made that. That is the shoe of Robert Wadlow, an actual recorded, I think he's the tallest man ever recorded alive by our official records. What I found fascinating about this shoe, Mike captured an eel, a live eel, in Bermuda.
Cute.
No, he killed it and he put the zippers in it.
I mean, it looks like a finger. It's got a nail bed.
When does that happen? That's what they were thinking. Well, maybe the Lord doesn't want us to have those 2 houses. 3rd house they buy. 3rd house they make an offer on. Big house. Mike is like the free energy galore guy.
On the 3rd one, you find a house, you get it, it's a beautiful home.
So there again, that's why we believe we were led here. Although it is interesting that this particular house, the gentleman who built it originally was preparing for the Cuban Missile Crisis in the early 1960s.
Turn out in the billiard room, there's a panel with sort of hollow side, and when you open that, there's a steel door, and you get through that, and that takes you into a staircase down deep underneath the ground, and that's where the bunker is.
Turns out the house has these radio communication stations. There's 2 of them built in here. It's got a hidden antenna along the roof line. It also has storage for coal, wood, tons of gallons of fuel.
Let me see it again, and it's got the bone in it and such.
Yeah, that was where the bone got ripped out, and probably, my theory is it was left on the hand or wherever. We still have a lot more excavating to do, but this thing's roughly...
And you did not know that any of this was in the house you were going to buy? We had no idea. And the seller didn't know either, at least didn't tell you. The seller did, but he didn't talk to the seller, you talked to a realtor. Right, and he didn't know. Yeah, a realtor doesn't really know much sometimes. You shouldn't say that.
3rd house that they go to. It's like the dream home for a guy like Mike. It's got like and he didn't know it was there. It's got like an underground bunker in it.
In Knoxville, there's a thing called the sun sphere. Okay, you ever seen it? It's like this big gold ball on top of well, the guy who built our house built the sun sphere. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And we own Sunbeam.
It's got all sorts of craziness.
And actually even hidden panels and secret doors and even a hidden bunker.
And it's got like a giant sundial. And the guy owns Sunbeam. I think the Lord was looking out for him.
So we're glad to be here. We're very blessed to be here, but it took 3 times.
3 times, 3 nights, 3 days before the election, 333.
Yeah, well, on the election.
Boom. And that election, that was an important, and that was a prophetic video beyond belief. I've got 3 of them back here. Now, Joseph, period. What that would tend to mean, in Egypt, you wouldn't even know about Egypt without Joseph. Is that you have somebody in the office that is building the storehouses for you, somebody pragmatic, like Joseph was, within a pagan empire. It's where Joseph was. Even the priests and all that, they were doing all their wicked stuff. In fact, he overfunded them just to keep them out of the way, to get them out of the path, so that he could do his building. God blessed the pagan empire because of Joseph. Yes, it was hardcore prosper in Egypt because Joseph was there during those building 7 years. But the ultra prosper that goes to the roof was on the second set of 7 years. Now, in actual Egypt, you had a literal little bitty Joseph. In this, it's a spirit of Joseph that's coming in. In fact, you're meant to take part of this. Just like Kim Clement said, you're meant to take part of this. You on the other side of the screen are meant to be a Joseph. All the world burned around Egypt. Things were falling apart. We need help, we need help, we need help. But Egypt, the Empire of Egypt, its profits skyrocketed through the roof because everybody came to Egypt saying, help us, help us, help us. In fact, that's what made it the empire with the eye on top, was because Joseph was there. They were prepping, getting prepared. Now, my friend Mike Hughes, he's an interesting cat back here. Probably he's made free energy sports cars. He's got a battery of vehicles that all run off of his stuff. Like, you want stuff that works, Mike's stuff. He builds this stuff he uses himself. One of the biggest emails we get to God in a Nutshell is about free energy stuff. Stuff for farms, stuff for buildings, stuff for this, that, and the other thing. They don't even make money. He spends lots and lots of money, and then he tries to sit, but mainly he builds this stuff for himself. And he also got health supplements and things like Mike. You would not believe how old Mike Hughes is and when he started having kids. And when I go out with him, and by the way, the supplements and things that he's holding in his hand, he's got stuff for everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. When I go out with Mike, he runs circles. I have trouble keeping up with Mike. If you're building stuff, ranches, any of that kind of stuff on your property and trying to prep for a rainy day, you may want to go look at Mike's stuff. Now, what the rabbis are going to tell you, or what these folks are going to believe, is that there is a time period between the second 7 and the third 7, which of course will be the Tribulation 7. Egypt prospered for a long time because of what Joseph put in place. From the book of Exodus, it starts in kind of a funny way in chapter 1 of the book of Exodus, verse 8. Symbol of the head back there. Notice it looks like the infinity symbol. The 8, which always represents some kind of a new beginning. Chapter 1, verse 8, the book of Exodus, it says, "And a Pharaoh came that knew not Joseph."
I've heard a lot of preachers, and I think at the very beginning of my ministry, I also felt like I should love humans, you know? And yes, we should have love for them. But it shouldn't be bigger than our love for God. And I think a lot of ministers forget that.
You wrote some of the biggest songs in history, man.
Well, yeah. And I learned, I may have written some of the biggest songs in history, but I learned through working with you, Trey, that there are people that just say, that Rick Derringer is just a demonic spirit. He's doing the work of the devil. Rock and roll is the devil. They go on and on and on. I mean, it reminds me, I use the word Pharisees a lot because I know they all pretend to be Christians, and they probably
That's just it.
We're all created of Him, and we cannot judge each other.
It looks bad because you think to yourself, well, I just really want to appease these people. But then you come to realize
there is no appeasement.
No!
Trump, he's 70. It's the 70th year of Israel, and then you got all the rest of it.
The Sanhedrin's back, and they're putting pressure on Trump to move the embassy back on this date. They also are putting pressure on Trump to rebuild the third temple.
And then also my property upstate, the address is 333 Gabriel Road in Bethel, New York, House of God, right next to the original Woodstock site, where millions of people are still influenced by that. And I believe we should piggyback and have a God stock.
And people recognize you and say, that's Haley, and you say, yes, I'm Haley from God in a Nutshell. That's funny.
Well, they give me kind of a cocked head look at first. They're like, and I'm like, yes.
Okay, I'm really wanting to go through this Museum of the Weird though. I want to see what they got in here. So let's go ask the lady. So what is in the Museum of the Weird again? What are the things?
Well, listen to this. The two witnesses that show up at the end of the book, Revelation 11.
Just as a caveat, I don't think that it means that everybody's supposed to run out there and go, 11:11, this must mean something. I don't necessarily think it means that. I think it started meaning something to us like that for whatever reason, and therefore he started using it.
You know, this is just me that is happening to. You know, you think, I tried to read anything into it. I just look at it, and I always told my wife, my wife kind of got tickled at me all the time because I would see it and I said, yeah, look at it, 11:11.
Numbers are not evil. The devil copies everything. Now, doesn't mean they can't be used for occult purposes. But God feels so strongly about math and numbers that an entire book of your Bible is called Numbers. That's how God feels about the numbers.
It's just a reminder of hope, and I like to think that the Lord just gives us sweet little messages that just speak to us sometimes.
Like, this is really the 11th hour, you might even say, that we're living in.
That's it.
Every time they see this, they become aware, like something's about to happen. Something big is about to happen.
So that's one of those things that it just brings your attention to be thankful for his blessings every time I see it.
My chosen one, in whom my soul delights, that's the bride of Christ.
He's knocking on the door. He's saying, look, I'm coming. Don't fall asleep. Remember the oil, Don't be late for the party.
Now the 11:11, well, 2 1s could also be the Tav, the cross, the last letter of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
And as I'm saying that, I feel the Holy Spirit. So
that was something. And you worked for TBN for 7 years.
Yeah. Oh my! It's like you don't even realize these things are happening when they're happening. But the Lord has us on His hand, and He knows what's going on.
Some of our old stuff on giants and weird stuff, and look, I'm not sure we're good at weird stuff.
The 6 foot thing in the ice?
The 6 foot thing in the ice, nobody really knows. So it's been frozen since like the 60s, 70s. It went missing for over 30 years after it got caught in a bunch of controversy with like the FBI, the Smithsonian. We found it in 2013.
I'm paying these people $12. She sold this a long time ago.
They really are designed to be the baddest dogs on the block. They always were. Even there's no such thing as an old one with God in a Nutshell stuff. I don't care whether you're a king of earth, a rock star, or a guy just kicking back on his couch. You can watch these things over and over a jillion times.
This is Seymour. It's Seymour. Feed him.
Now we're doing a study. Now we're doing a study on the book of Enoch, and some of these are going to be just me sitting down with you comfortably and having a conversation with you about. We're going to go through this thing. As far as I know, there's no other large-scale, competent study on the book of Enoch. Derek and Sharon Gilbert, that's Sharon back there. Let me move out of the way. They're of course, one of the giant These two people, those giant conferences at different they put in, from my observable view, other than Tom Horn, and there's other people in there, but Tom's wonderful. Derek and Sharon are some of my closest friends, and their books, bar none, when I'm looking for stuff, other people's stuff is great. Derek and Sharon's stuff that I look at, and Tom Horn. These are the words of the blessing of Enoch. This is the book of the end. In fact, we got a whole video on Enoch. I'll go watch it. I also put some personal stuff about my life in there. right up there on YouTube for free.
You should actually find out from God TV if you can go stand on the top there.
Jay, you better come. It's going to be exciting.
I would love to come.
You should.
Where
bring your camera and bring your drone. My husband's coming, he'll bring his drone.
Over on God in a Nutshell Project, you can subscribe for a membership. We've made the price really, really low. If you actually can't afford, if you can afford it, pay for it, go through the thing. But if you really can't, write to us. We'll try. Notice I said the word try. We'll try. I want to give a special thanks to everyone that supported us over. You're what makes this even possible. And we made the price on doing a study with us. We're going to try and do 2 a month. I'm going to try actually to deliver more stuff, but I want to only commit to trying to do 2 of these on a scheduled basis a month. And we didn't know this beforehand, but in booking the tickets for going to Israel for the 70th anniversary of Israel, what day does it, and we didn't plan this, what day does it arrive? And tell me the date and time.
The day on your itinerary is May 11th at 11 a.m.
With he blessed the elect and righteous. I want you to notice, I used to just let these letters and stuff run on the back of the screen when I was doing the God Dimension. I would sometimes on this screen or that screen. Now sometimes I would have one up there. If I'm showing you the letter, obviously I put it up there. But if I'm just letting it run, I always find it fascinating. Like right now I'm reading this part and boom, the Yod pops out. The number 10, the number of completion. Okay, so what day do I come home from? And we didn't know this either. What day do I come home from Israel?
You come back on May 22nd.
Wherewith the elect and righteous who will be living in the day of tribulation, when the wicked and the godless are to be removed. Notice the symbol, the symbol of the 4 ones popped up on the back. Isn't that's the symbol right there of the hand of the Creator covering the time period of the evil eye. Come do the study of Enoch with us. I get there on the 11th at 11 and I come home on the 22nd. That's right, from Israel on its 70th anniversary. That's true?
Yeah, that's correct. I just messaged you when I noticed it on the itinerary.
We're going to make it awesome for you. And stuff like that right there is going to be happening all the time. Let me just quote you the book. I don't even have to look at it. These are the words of the blessing of Enoch. Wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, with the 4 ones on the back, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when the wicked and the godless are to be removed. I'm going to skip down. These words, notice, the 30 popped up. That's the staff for the righteous. These words are not for my generation. What generation are they for? I'm guessing yours. But for a remote one, which is for to come, the last generation of this age. I'm Trey Smith. God bless every last one of you. Come to our study with us. God bless every last one of you on the other side of the screen. A very pretty donkey, and he's out there. Lord Jesus rode on a donkey. Lord Jesus loves you. Did you know that?